Hello, good evening, everyone, and welcome to Popcast on the Rocks, episode 38. It's a Tuesday. I'm John. This is Andrea. How's it going?
Pretty good. Pretty good. Had a decent start to the week after kind of a rough weekend, so can't complain over here.
Okay,
How are you doing?
good. Yep. Not a rough weekend here, so I guess that was good.
That is good.
Um, got a deer on deer hunting, the closing of the season.
Yeah.
So
I was gonna say you had a very good weekend.
yeah. So that's good. Got
Mm-hmm.
lots of sustenance for a while. So
Nice.
yeah,
Where do you go hunting?
there's a place just near us. Basically, it's
Okay,
our own land.
cool.
So yeah, it's we got a few options. We've never really, my dad and I have never really committed too much time to it since I've been out there. Just it's cold or whatever, I guess.
Yeah.
But this year was really nice, so we're kind of finding some different spots we can put some stands and that kind of thing. So
Sure.
yeah. Not sure what else. I feel like there was something else this weekend yet too. Oh, played some D&D.
Yep.
So that was a lot
Mm-hmm.
of fun. Yeah, that was basically my weekend. But your happy years is over.
Yes, I am. It was a particularly rough go of it, and quite unique. To my current state. It wasn't like flu or cold or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
I just had like a nasty tangle with some pregnancy symptoms. Um,
Whoa, that's a reveal on the podcast there.
I know. Surprise. Yep, it's official. Everybody can know I'm pregnant. I can't show you my belly, but 'cause I can't stand up right now. Um, but yeah, I know it was kind of freaky. I was like having some back pain, which I was just like, oh yeah, well, I'm pregnant. That's, par for the course. And then all of a sudden, I laid down to like take a nap because when you're pregnant, you do cool stuff like take naps, and woke up and tried to stand, and my left leg was swollen to twice the size of my right one, and it was purple. And I was
Oh,
like, well, that's probably not good. That's not natural.
yeah.
so so I went to the hospital, and they were like, because they were worried, like, obviously that's not natural, and they thought it was maybe a blood clot. Thank goodness it
Right.
wasn't. Um, just like a pinched nerve in my back. So I've been,
Yeah.
you know, extending my super coolness and like lying down and elevating my leg and, just
Mm-hmm.
generally being an indigent over here. But
Yeah. Well, that's crazy that pinched nerve would do that. I was thinking like,
yeah.
that's
Yeah, well,
nuts.
they think it's like a pinched nerve that like hit my sciatic nerve. So that's why it like
Mm,
shot down my
yeah, yeah.
left leg. Um, so yeah. So I've been just like hobbling around, not only pregnant, but also hobbling around like an 80-year-old woman. So just, yeah,
Yep.
absolutely not the coolest weekend I've ever had.
Definitely a good step above like falling asleep with your arms like above your head or something
Yep.
for
Yep.
a very long time and waking up and you just can't move them.
Yep.
It's a step above.
Yep. That's right. I was cool enough to seek medical attention. So.
Yep. Yep. Okay. Well, hopefully this week is off to a better start then.
It is. It is. I've now hobbled around more than my house. I've hobbled around the block, and I felt very accomplished for doing that. So go me.
I feel like there was a character or a thing you would always do where you're like
Yes.
you're like
Oh,
dragging one. Is this what we're getting right now? Is
it
this you
totally
walking around the
is.
block?
Yes. So yeah, no, that's a great throwback. That's when I was in Troy, Maggie's show. And yeah, I played the harbor master, and I was just like, hobbling along like this and dragging a leg. Yeah, no, it's like, prophetic. Now it's come to life. It's reality
Yep.
for me. So I
Hmm.
already know how to live with it, I guess.
Perfect. All right. Well, we've got a couple more drink holidays
Yeah, my
that
gosh, a
are
slew of them.
around this area this time.
Mm-hmm.
I am again participating in none of them.
Okay. I saw the
Unfortunately,
color of your drink and thought maybe like apple
I
cider day.
know. Yeah,
I thought you were gonna do some like
it's
apple moonshine, apple cider.
um, that would have been really good. Yeah. I don't have any cider though.
Okay.
So, we were at the store today, but I don't remember seeing any cider because I thought of that after we left. It's like, hey, it's cider day. Was there any cider in here? I don't remember seeing any. Because here, I feel like it's a little almost past the time when that's everywhere.
Yeah, it's weird. It's still November and we haven't hit Thanksgiving, but I mean every store, no matter what they sell, has decided it's Christmas. So apple
Yep.
cider's over.
Yep. So it moves to eggnog right away.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yep.
So, yep. Yeah, then let's see. The 17th. I don't know what that is.
Goza.
Yeah.
So it is a German sour beer.
Oh, interesting.
Mm-hmm. Yep, a
Okay.
very specific kind that they made. Not yeah. So it's not so popular anymore. Could be coming back just because I feel like, I mean, I haven't been into a brewery in a while, but I feel like sours were really like making a comeback in breweries for a while there. That was pretty
Sure.
trendy. So yeah.
Yeah. I feel like it's less trendy now and more just a staple
Yeah.
of a
Mm-hmm.
brewery. It kind of had its like we had all of a sudden it was nitro or nitro was appearing everywhere,
Yes.
and then
Mm-hmm.
sour started popping up everywhere, and now like it's expected you have something that you keep around in those.
Right.
I think before that maybe it was red ale was getting to be. I mean, and maybe this is reminiscent of the Midwest or something.
Sure.
Maybe it's different, but around here that's definitely it feels like the way it went. And now like more hazy and dank and
Yes.
kind of thing. So
Yeah, there's definite waves to breweries. I've enjoyed I didn't enjoy the nitro a bunch. But I did enjoy like the red ale because red ale is one of my favorite kinds of beers.
sure.
Enjoyed the sour. I like hazy sometimes. Can be hit or miss. Can be very sweet sometimes. So, but it's fun.
I think that when a brewery is jumping on one of the fads or whatever, trying a new thing, it's easy for them to go overboard.
Yeah.
So like when
Mm-hmm.
the first sours were coming out, it's like just grape juice.
Yes.
And then they like, okay, we can tame this down.
Right.
Let's have a balance of
Let's have a real
yeast and
beer. Yeah.
sour. Yeah, and so they find their their groove,
Yeah.
So, yep. Macchiato, 19th, National
Mm-hmm.
Macchiato Day.
Macchiato and Zinfandel Day. Very like,
Yeah.
I've seen so many of those memes that are like, like I drink coffee in the morning and wine in the evening, or like I have like coffee to get me going and wine to soothe me at the end of
Yes.
the heart. It's just very like cyclical. So feels like that would be a perfect fit for that day.
It's one of those things like I think you brought up Maggie before. I think that's one of
Yeah.
those things before I left Facebook, I saw her say was something like, I can't go into any store and not buy like an apron or something that's not some sort of like, I don't know what it is, some sort of self-aware presentation of a silly joke. There's
Yes.
probably a tone or a type of thing that this is. I'm sure, yeah, you seem aware of what I'm talking about, but
Yeah.
maybe you have a better way of describing it.
Yeah.
It's like kitschy. It's like just, I don't know.
Yeah, they're like kitschy little sayings that are like true enough that they resonate with you and you're like, I can
Yeah,
recognize that. They're kind of like, you know, like tropey kind of sayings that you're just like, oh
yeah,
yeah, like I totally get that. Haha, but also funny. So,
yeah. they're just like, I can only buy something that's ironic, or
Yeah.
I don't know, like but so yes. Anyways, I get what you're saying here.
Yep. That's apparently the 19th in a day in a nutshell is going to be that. So
Yeah. All right. Um. Okay, I'm gonna start us out with a fun fact. I guess it's
yeah,
news. It's not really. I feel like it's not really news, but kind of. It's a celebrity
it's
thing.
cool.
So Tom Cruise the other year during filming a Mission Impossible movie, set like this record for holding his breath, for a movie scene underwater,
Right.
and it was over 6 minutes, or like about 6 minutes, and then Kate Winslet for Avatar 2 in filming that. There's a bunch of water stuff in that, I guess. And
hmm
she broke his record now at 7 minutes, I think 14 seconds.
Yeah.
Which I think it's a little unfair just because Tom Cruise, his whole scene is a lot of swimming
Right.
and
And if
like and
hers
stuff, and
just has
she's
to,
standing there.
yeah.
But regardless, that's a very long time, and it's pretty
Definitely.
cool.
Yeah.
So
I could not get anywhere near that time. I'm pretty sure like the longest I've held my breath underwater was like 2, maybe 3 minutes tops.
even that's long. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
I guess I haven't tested,
Yeah,
but
in a
a long
while.
time. But
I felt like
yeah.
that was a very much like a kid thing. Like a kid
Yeah.
or like going into teenage years kind of thing was like, "Oh yeah, how long can you do it?" And you just like time yourself. When
Mhm.
you're a little kid, you think it's forever and it's like 12
Yeah.
seconds. You're like, "Oh my
Yeah.
god."
Well, and she points it out in kind of her interview and stuff, and Tom Cruise is talking about that too, how it's a mental game. You
Yeah,
know, a lot of people, a person can hold their breath a long time, but it's beating your inner demons to like
right.
the constant bodily reaction that you're going to die, you're
The
going to die,
panic.
you're going to, yeah,
Yeah,
and so yeah, I think
absolutely.
that's cool.
Yeah, it's
Beat
I
those
mean,
things.
I haven't experienced that certainly underwater. I've never been underwater that long. But I did experience that when I went skydiving. And,
Oh.
I fell out of the plane. I mean, you just like fall out of a plane. This, person attached to you makes you jump out of the plane. And it's just so irrational what you're doing. Your body realizes that you're falling. And so your first instinct is to like scramble for something to hold on to.
Like a cartoon.
Yeah, it is. It's so silly. You're just like, I'm falling through the air. Like, what would I grab? There is nothing.
Wings of an angel.
Right. But your brain is just so conditioned to be like, I'm falling, like catch
Yeah.
yourself.
Yep.
So there is like a mental game there for sure that you got to be like, it's fine. Like, this is what we're supposed to be doing. You don't
Mhm.
have to just like flail your arms around. In fact, that's probably bad. So
Yeah.
yeah. So I certainly
Oh,
get that sort of like mentality of like you have to talk yourself out of panicking.
that's what's fun about humans, We have the
Mhm.
ability to do that.
Yeah.
Like,
Mhm.
we understand, humans are animals, but we're different because of this, because we
Right.
can understand what's happening to us and
Right.
around us and all this stuff, and then do something different than
Mhm.
nature would direct.
Right.
So,
Yeah, we can put a situation into context and be like, this
yep,
isn't actually happening, you know?
yep,
Like I'm holding my breath underwater. I'm not actually drowning or I'm, you
yep,
know, jumping from a plane, yes, but the parachute is going to catch me. I'm not just like falling.
yep.
So, yeah.
And it's interesting those times that your body, like, it still will override. It's like
Yeah. Mhm.
when you're playing VR and you're seeing yourself move, but you're not moving, and that disconnect. There's no
Yes.
reason you should feel sick. You're sitting there, you're fine, but you just, those reactions are
Mhm.
built in. Or when I get a brain freeze, when I'm
Yeah.
drinking cold drinks way too fast,
Yep.
which happens to me a lot. It's like, stupid brain, I know I'm not freezing to death here, all right?
Right,
Feel
right.
it. Outside temperature 70, you know?
Right.
So, yeah.
Yeah, very interesting human phenomena
Yep.
that we
Yep.
go through. And good on Kate for
Uh,
breaking that record. That's cool.
yeah, it's awesome. Well, have you achieved anything amazing recently in the world of video games, if not holding your breath forever, or gotten through any new television shows or anything like that?
Um, man, I'm trying to think of things that I've been doing while I've been, an invalid. Um, I've gotten through a bunch of like the Great British Baking Show, so again, like a super
Okay.
cool 80-year-old thing to do.
That seems pretty popular, though. Yeah, it's pretty
It is,
popular.
it is. It is pretty universal. But yeah, it's fun because Chris watches it with me and we've all got like opinions on who's gonna go and stuff like that. Also, British people are just so freaking nice. My God. They all just like
I feel
help
like
each
they would
other.
tell you that. I feel like they would not tell you that.
Oh, it's hilarious. They're all in the tent and they're like, "Oh, like they're rushing and somebody's done and they're like, "Can I help you? What do you need me to do?" And they're like helping somebody like put up
Mm.
their cake or whatever. And I'm just like, "Dang. I don't know if this would happen in America." We'd be like, "No, look at them struggling." Nice. So,
I think it depends on the environment
I think it
that
does
you're
too.
placed in as well. It's kind of like, we get the housewives later, you get put in
Oh
that
yeah.
situation and producers off camera will be like, are you going to let her get away with that? Like,
Yeah,
I mean, you should maybe go address these issues right now, and
right.
like they pick fights and like cause things, and I think it depends on, yeah, on the set and the expectation. You see it with Chopped, where a lot
Yes.
of times people are quite generous, they
Yes.
want to win, and it's different people are different, but they want to win fairly, you
Right.
know.
Right.
You don't want, so
Right, they'll tell them like, "Oh, I have this ingredient," or, "Yeah, go use the ice cream maker," or whatever, and yeah.
yep.
But so, yeah, so I've been watching a bunch of that. Um, I watched, like, the super trendy, super awful, Netflix show, Emily in Paris, that, like, everybody's been kind of talking about, and yeah, don't. It's fine. Don't do it. It's
Okay.
like so it's Darren Star is the creator and he's the creator of Sex and the City. So it's his like kind of like comeback into like a younger version and we're setting it in France. So I was like, "Oh, like I can't travel anywhere. Like the scenery is gorgeous. It makes me want to go to
Yeah.
France." But yeah, the storyline is just kind of very like
Mm.
very soapy teen drama. So that was
I
disappointing.
mean, what isn't that Sex in the City as well? I mean, like,
It was, yeah.
have our expectations just moved on? We've just
Yeah, I thought it would be
later.
a little more clever, I just thought it was
Sure.
gonna be a little more fun, and it was, like I said, it was fun to, like, escape for a little bit and, feel like, "Oh, right, travel is possible, we're gonna be able to do that sometime again," kinda, like, take your mind off the fact that, you
Sure.
haven't left the house in forever. But yeah, other than that kind of bit of escapism, no, thumbs
Yeah.
down. No plot.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, we watched a video. I watch a lot of videos from Japan. Sometimes people
Mm,
just like
sure.
walking around the streets of wherever, and this one was covering a mountain in Japan that I hadn't heard of. It was Kaide Mountain or something, but it
Mhm.
was very gorgeous. It was like
Sure.
filmed on a like foggy, misty day, a person hiking around and stuff, and it just makes me ache to be in
Mhm.
Japan.
Yeah.
It's yep.
Yeah, that's
So,
kind of the trouble with those like escapist, tendencies.
mhm,
Like on the one hand, it sort of fulfills that desire because you remember what it's like and you
yep,
remember like the joy of travel and seeing other places. And then on the other hand, you're like, well, now I want to go.
yep.
Oh shit, I can't.
Well, that's what Ashley says is like if she's not super happy or something, she doesn't want to watch something happy. It's not going to cheer her up. It's like, this is too
Yeah.
happy. This is annoying. You
Yeah.
actually want to watch something dark or whatever, you
Yeah.
know. So, or yep.
That's very true. I go through the same thing, especially when I listen to music. Um,
Mm,
although sometimes like it can be very confusing and Chris has to read my like physical cues because I can use like Metallica can either be like my happy song
sure.
or it can be like I'm
Or
super pissed.
yeah, yeah,
So he's kind of like gotta like watch, what's going on with my face or like how I'm like, if I'm like grooving along
you're
to a
like
song or if
jamming.
I'm just
Yeah,
like, yeah,
yeah.
just doing a task and I'm like, oh god damn it.
Yeah. Yeah. Ashley and I have been attempting to beat Tetris Effect Connected. I think I
Oh
said
yeah,
last week
I
maybe
see
we
that.
start playing that. That's kind of our next gen game. I mean, I know like the first version came out last gen, but it's updated and 4K and all that stuff. And there's a connected mode, and so we play together,
Sure.
and then with a computer player because we need three, and we've gone through like easy and normal and hard, and we're on very hard, and we just can't beat it. We like to blame the computer player, but it's a team effort, and
Sure.
it's not working. So, or keep on trying.
That's right. That's right. We're just talking about, the wonders of the human mind and what we can overcome. So I
Yep.
believe in you. You can overcome
Okay.
this.
All right. Watch out, Kate Winslet.
Yep.
You have one record. I'll have another. And then Mandalorian is airing. Season 2, episode 3 just came out last week, and no spoilers here, but I flipped out after I watched this episode. I've been waiting for some cool stuff to happen,
Sure.
and they continue to prove that the people making this show actually know what Star Wars is and actually care about Star Wars and are connecting it to the greater universe, and it's fantastic. Bryce Dallas Howard directed this episode.
Oh, cool.
And there's a cool new actor in this guest starring, and again, no spoilers, but to me, Star Wars lives in a few places, and Mandalorian's one of them. So,
can I non-spoilery ask if this is related to Ahsoka?
Ahsoka,
sorry.
I will refrain from answering yes or no on the basis of spoilers. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
I can tell you yes or no off camera, but
okay. All right. I can't avoid the spoilers all over the internets, and that's not what I was talking about earlier when we were having our non-spoiler conversation. But I just saw something else related, so I was just wondering. So speaking of Star Wars, I did see something cool, non-spoilery, totally completely spoiler free, easy to talk about, floating around the internet, about how George Lucas laid out a very specific plan for his Star Wars sequels. And they were talking about like what they were going to do with them, and somebody was proposing that they could still make them in the time between the Return of the Jedi and like the new trilogy that just came out.
Rise of Force Awakens. Yeah.
Force Awakens. Thank you. I could only think of Rise of Skywalker. I'm like, that's the last one, not the first one. So I was reading something about that, and they were talking about how like the villain would really be Darth Maul, who would be training an apprentice, who would be like kind of like the active in your face villain, and then Darth Maul would be like behind the scenes kind of thing, and Leia would be like the real hero and stopping all of it. And I don't know, it sounded kind of cool. Like there would have to be a little bit of gymnastics to make it work. I mean, obviously you'd have to be doing some like recasting, to get our like sort of middle-aged Leia and Luke. But we've had other actors play them before, so in other movies or other versions. So I don't know. I just thought it was kind of interesting.
Without going into spoilers, I know that one thing you mentioned there would not be possible because it breaks other canon that exists.
In Mandalorian, or like in books,
in this proposed in the cartoons, actually.
Okay. Is it about Darth Maul?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. I mean, without saying whatever, but yeah, I mean, they had an answer for that too. I can't remember what it was because I was just reading through the article. I'll have to send it to you, but I don't know. part of
Yeah, I
me
had
part of me
added a
was
video
like
to my
part of me
yeah,
was just like interested in it because I was like, oh man, these last, sequels really sucked. But then I was like, oh, are we gonna do that thing where we like try to like reboot and reboot and reboot? Is this gonna be like a Spider-Man type of situation where we're just trying to like shove new movies in all the time? And,
yeah.
could this make it worse or would this actually make it better? So I was just interested.
Well, the
See what you
problem they
thought.
did, yeah, again, like I s- I'm not gonna okay, so spoiler warning for the mainline Star Wars movies, all right? Um, so it's tough to put anything in between there that revolves around this central cast because Ryan Johnson, well, not just I suppose it was really on J.J. Abrams. It was a bright idea for him to have Luke have been like MIA for
Hmm.
25 years or whatever it was,
Right.
or well over a decade. Um, so you could squeeze in a few things,
Hmm.
but then, I mean, you don't get
Yeah.
that much time. There could be stories, and I would be in favor of them doing an animated version of them. There's going to have to be another
Yeah.
animated show, I would think. Um, and I could see him doing something like that, maybe.
Yeah, that might be most palatable to people just because I feel like
Hmm.
Luke and Leia are such like, firmly iconic roles played by Carrie Fisher and Mark Hamill. Um,
Yep.
but yeah, it was the person who wrote it was saying they would have to kind of squeeze it in before, um, this like established canon where Luke does go off and be
Yeah.
missing, because there is clearly like a short amount of time where like Han and Leia do get together. They have their son. Luke's going to train him,
Yep.
so you maybe got like 6 to 8 years, depending,
Yep.
kind of on how
They
that
could
goes.
squeeze in, yeah, they could squeeze in like maybe even some sort of, I don't know, heir to the empire. You could grab
Hmm.
some of those pieces and put them in there for sure. And
Yeah.
again, I'd say, well, in I think the last Star Wars movie, they showed a scene, like a training scene with Luke and Leia,
Yeah.
de-aged and stuff. And
Right.
if I recall, it looked quite good. They could have been doing that. They could have made a movie or two that way,
Hmm.
but this movie placed it only 10
Yeah.
years after, and they could have had this whole cast de-aged. I mean, I know that's a lot of work, but they've been doing it more and more. Kurt Russell in Guardians of the Galaxy 2,
Hmm. Samuel L.
these things are,
Jackson. Yeah.
yeah, these things are pretty
Captain
convincing
America.
now.
Or,
And
yeah.
Star Wars is always trying to be about pioneering new technology and stuff. And it
Hmm.
would get a lot better, and they invent some new things to do
Hmm.
this over the course. But too late.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I was half convinced about it just because I just feel like there's so much potential in the story that just got like ripped away by this last trilogy, but I don't
Hmm.
know. We'll see. We'll see if like Disney Plus, decides to take that up and maybe make, like you said, an animated series or even a new TV series.
Yep. I mean, they could do an animated series that's, like Marvel is doing the What If line for Disney Plus or something
Right.
like that, I think it's called. So they could have, like they label all the good Star Wars books, Star Wars Legends that were written
Hmm.
before. They could do that kind of thing too, Star Wars Legends, and
Yeah.
basically animate or live action, whatever, tell stories of, you know, and put that on Disney Plus, and yeah,
Hmm.
people would watch that for sure, I think.
Definitely.
But I don't know. It's a lot.
Interesting concept. I mean, there'd have to
Yeah.
be a lot of elements that work to make it happen, but
Yep.
it was thrown out there, so I just thought it was interesting.
I'm like I'm hesitant to get my hopes up too much with Mandalorian, even, like I'm
Yeah.
worried about them trying to, because there was talk of the movie side of things coming in saying, no, you need to try to explain some of these things in our movies,
Right.
use this time to expand on that and explain it. And like, I'm worried they will do that.
Hmm.
How does this thing end? What's the bigger picture for it? All that stuff.
Yep.
But otherwise, I hope this can just be this kind of self-contained thing, not dealing with the new movies as much as possible.
Mm-hmm.
And then we just go somewhere else.
Yep.
Just go somewhere else, do other things,
Right.
see other times in the Star Wars, but yeah.
Yeah, there is such a thing about just like letting a piece go and not trying to like
Yep.
build more onto it and tie it
But
in.
it is what makes something greater than the sum of its parts. And I feel
Mm-hmm.
like we've talked about this before, but part of the reason I flipped out this last Mandalorian episode is because the people would call fan service, and I would agree it would be, but the tie-ins to other elements of the Star Wars universe, the cartoons and previous movies and different stuff, and like references to things from books and whatever, that shows a knowledge and appreciation and understanding
Mm-hmm.
for all that, and it just makes it that much better when
Yeah.
you see, and you're watching the Netflix Daredevil and Jessica Jones and
Yeah.
stuff, and when
Mm-hmm.
you see a character cross over between the shows or make a call, it amplifies the importance of what you're watching. And so if
Yeah.
Star Wars just starts anew, you know, you have to rebuild all of that,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah.
Yeah. Although, I mean, you could argue they've done it with The Mandalorian. You know what I mean? Like it's
Yes, but
separate.
it's trapped.
It's
Yes.
trapped, but it's separate enough to be like its own thing. You don't have to like
Yeah.
exactly fit it in, or it's not like, oh, we picked this up and we're like, taking
Yeah.
it off from this storyline. So yeah. So I mean, yeah, when you take a like a world like Star Wars, you're never going to be like completely in a void and not
Yeah.
relate to other things. But yeah, it's just kind of nice sometimes to not feel like you have to like continue the direct chain.
Yep. Yeah, maybe that's true. This is the real start of something else, because the Star Wars Rebels animated series ended on a really big cliffhanger. And I
Mhm.
feel like these two shows are going to kind of start to come, and that excites me
Converge.
a lot. And so it could
Yeah.
go a lot of ways. So, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I love the power of that kind of connected thing. I've been also spending a lot of time writing my. I finished writing pretty much a religion origin story, basically,
Uh-huh.
for my D&D campaign.
Sure.
This thing is just like snowballing out of control, and it's but it's tons of fun, and
Yeah.
it is so great to connect things,
Mhm.
to have
Very
someone's
satisfying.
sibling. Yeah, it's just it is definitely satisfying to have your players then realize that this thing is affecting that other thing they did way back then or whatever.
Yeah.
That's magic.
That is
So,
pretty cool.
yeah. Well, bit of a light news week, I
Mhm.
think.
Yeah.
Did you watch and did you like the Keanu Reeves starring Constantine movie some years ago?
The answer to both is yes and yes.
Okay. All right.
Absolutely.
I agree. And it's one of those things, it's very, Keanu Reeves is very not John Constantine as far as
Mhm.
like country of origin
Yes.
or hair color.
Yep.
But a lot of the rest of the movie cries out Hellblazer to me.
Yes.
So I quite enjoyed it. I quite enjoyed the cast. I think, yeah, that's
Mhm.
right. We've talked about Constantine on here. Well,
Definitely.
anyways, the man that plays Satan himself in that Constantine movie
Mhm.
says there might be a sequel in the works.
Yeah. Yeah, he said it pretty strongly too. He said it like it's going to happen, not like even that he and the studio are in talks about it happening. He was very like direct about, we're gonna make this. Um, I mean, no real commitments on who would be coming back other than I assume if they're making it, it would have to be Keanu Reeves. Like
Right.
you can't really do this without him. But everybody else could be, you know, interchangeable, I guess. But
Keanu would have to cut his hair.
he would.
Oh my
That
God.
magnificent hair.
Yeah. Man.
That John Wick
But
hair.
yeah.
But I mean,
mean,
if he's already cut it for Neo, like
that's true.
you could get away with this, you know.
Where did he find time to grow that back?
I'm just suggesting, like, I don't know where they're at in filming Matrix 4 or if that's like on pause, you know.
Yeah,
But if they film these kind of close together, if that's, you know, any sort of thing that they could do, then I mean, obviously he'd have to cut it for Neo. I mean, well, I guess not obviously, but I just think of Neo with short hair, so
right.
I think it'd be tough to pull off, but
interesting. I still think the Matrix 4 is a mistake.
I'm not loving that idea.
So on like a scale, I would much prefer a Constantine sequel than a Matrix sequel.
Yes.
Because I feel like it's a lot easier to make a Constantine one than a Matrix one.
I mean, the Matrix 4 is greenlit, so it is happening.
Yes.
And from the way that, you know, Peter Stormare, I think Stormare, I don't know. The way that he talks, this is basically greenlit as well. They just have to kind of figure out when they're going to actually film it and what they're going to be filming. But yeah. So if he films those next to each other, then he could just like cut his hair all in one go and then grow it back out for John Wick 4 and 5.
They did sort of do a little Constantine reunion at
they
DC
did.
Fandom.
Yes, I did watch some of that. That was really fun.
So,
because Keanu did talk about the fact that he was very hesitant to sign on to play John Constantine because he didn't think he had the look.
Yeah.
But just like the script spoke to him so much that he was like, I'll take a gamble, and really loved it.
I mean, aren't they working on Justice League Dark for HBO Max?
Yes. And the article I think mentioned that, you know, Keanu could come back for that as Constantine.
I think fans would be so upset, or a lot of people. Maybe they're bracing for the idea that, you know, they're getting to the idea that, okay, well, Keanu Reeves is such a thing right now, they'll forgive us.
I kind of think so. I mean, he is. He's just having like a huge revival, so could probably get away with a lot right now.
Yeah, maybe.
I mean, I don't want him to take advantage of it and like push it too far and then everybody like falls out of love again. But I mean, while you got him, do the cool stuff. Do what we want to see.
Alan mentions that Peter Stormare was in John Wick as well. And
oh, cool. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
John Wick 2? Okay.
That's one thing that, I mean, I guess is cool. I like when people make movies with their friends, you know, but at the same time, it's like in the next John Wick, it seems like I was thinking we just need Trinity involved, Carrie-Anne Moss, and then they're all back, you know?
Yeah, true.
So, but now they're doing the Matrix. So we're going to have like, you're going to have two franchises with the same group of people,
right?
You know, it's weird, but anyways, couple video gaming stories, I guess, quick. It's, if you have not managed to find a PlayStation 5 or an Xbox Series S or X, good luck. Sounds like the demand is there and supply is not, probably into next year. So you're going to have to be pretty lucky on the ball, like you swing in someplace, check every time if you want to get one. But maybe you don't right away because, you know, there's not any exclusive games to the Xbox stuff right now. They're just not doing things that way. It's a continued family of stuff. It's about Game Pass. Right. And the PS5, a lot of those games are cross-gen as well, which, again, we talked about the reversal of that strategy, but Spider-Man Miles Morales is available. And the PS5 is having some weird issues, which guessing will get ironed out in a few updates shortly. But it sounds like there's a number of them. So
Yeah, I saw they're kind of having very different I mean they're both of course console issues, not like game issues, but very different issues. Like PS5 definitely feels like the fact that, it freezes if you put it on like rest mode and like has to totally reboot up. That does feel like a fixable firmware, update that they
Mhm.
could do. Whereas like the disk drive issues on the Series X, like
Mhm.
that's like a physical repair almost, it seems like. Like that seems worse.
And I
Um,
have seen how many it actually is. It's always hard to
right,
gauge
yeah.
because everyone's getting these things and to see how many is actually affecting.
Right,
Um,
right. Who's complaining the
it was
loudest and about what? Yeah.
the PS5 was worrying to me because it was so many different issues.
Yeah.
Um,
Mhm.
but but like you say, probably all fixable
Mhm.
with an update at some point. The Series X with the disk drive. Um, I wonder what the average failure rate of any optical drive is. Um,
Mhm.
being a mechanical piece with a lot of moving parts, it's
Yeah.
part reason companies don't want to put that in their devices anyways. Physical
Mhm.
hard drives as well, spinning platters, those
Yep.
fail.
Yep.
So yeah.
Our old Xbox 360, when they were talking about like the clicking noise that people were experiencing on those disk drives, I
Mm.
was like, "Yeah, we got that. We know what that is." So I
Yeah.
definitely know what that is. But of course, like I said, it's our old Xbox 360, and
Yeah.
we just like fixed it with some duct tape, and we were fine. So, but I wouldn't do that. I
Well,
wouldn't do that to like a new, Series X
yeah.
or anything.
Well, and the 360 was from a different, I mean, it seems silly because it wasn't that long ago, but it really was from a different era of Microsoft and hardware,
Right.
different leadership, different. I mean, the 360 came with a ginormous external power block, if I
Yes.
recall, and the Red Ring of Death issues, overheating,
Yeah.
like
Had those
it was a
too.
very different company
Yes.
um,
Yes.
than it is today. They've really turned around their I don't know, the standard of quality they expect to give their customers and just like the department that creates their hardware. So
Right. Right.
but yeah, I tried the other day. I tried to get a PS5. They were like 5 times throughout the day at Walmart. They were going to be in stock. I had one in my cart a couple times, but one time I had it in my cart.
Ooh.
I hit checkout. I had a controller in the cart too, an extra controller, and I hit checkout. Yes, yes, and the final thing, I only got the controller.
Oh,
So it
no.
arrived today, my PlayStation 5 Dual Sense controller, but I have no console to go along with it.
Man, if that isn't a slap in the face.
Yeah.
Here, play
I
with
was like, I
nothing.
saw the total. It was not like $60 for the controller. What happened?
Yep, yep.
Oh my God. That's the closest I've ever been in and not got it. That's ridiculous. So, anyways, that's that.
Persevere, John.
Yeah. Yep. Um, oh, Alan's bringing up that Nintendo was hit with another class action lawsuit for Joy-Con drift issues.
Mm,
Nope,
yeah.
Alan, you're wrong. And Nintendo says Joy-Con drift isn't a thing. That's not real. It didn't happen. So I'm not sure where you're getting that.
Alan's
But
gonna
yeah.
start a behind the scenes war with you here.
No, I
How
mean,
dare you?
it's Nintendo, I say, is one of the last remaining like wholesome companies. But at the same time, they are ruthless with their business practices and stuff,
Mhm.
and they are um I don't know, sometimes not held accountable. I mean, people yell every time Nintendo does something they don't like, but
Right.
ultimately people still stick by them. And the Joy-Con drift thing seems like a big problem. Like
Mhm.
Microsoft with the Red Ring of Death, at least, like they fixed everybody's systems.
Right.
Joy-Con drift stuff, they are, but like now during the everybody being home and stuff during the pandemic things, like people weren't there, so then the Joy-Cons weren't getting fixed, and you
Mhm.
couldn't buy like a single Joy-Con for a while. You had to buy two,
Mhm.
and just yeah, kind of a mess.
Yeah.
So, but well, hopefully they, you know, I never think like a lawsuit is probably the answer to this. The answer would be like, well, don't buy a Nintendo stuff. They're not gonna stand by and make quality products,
Hmm.
But yeah. Then you asked me,
Yeah.
did you watch The Real Housewives of Salt Lake City? And the answer is yes, I did. Of course I did. Did
And
you?
yes, I did. I did. How could I not after our hilarious exchange about getting the night wrong? I was all like
Yeah.
primed and pumped to watch it, and then it was like,
Yeah.
and wait till Wednesday.
I'm good at
So,
that.
but yeah, I did. I actually ended up watching it twice, because
Oh.
I watched it like DVR, and then it like a repeat of the episode came on the Bravo network, and I was like, oh well, I'll just like kind of watch it again in the background, see if I missed something or if I didn't catch something at first. And yeah, it was very interesting, kind of learning the backgrounds of all these women and how. I mean, of course, when you think Salt Lake City, you think Mormons. So it was
Mhm.
like all about like who is like a practicing Mormon, who's like in the church, who's an
Yeah.
excommunicated Mormon, who left the Mormon church, who's like pretending to be a Mormon, but is like, still gonna drink, and I'm a modern Mormon. So
Mhm.
yeah, very interesting. Very interesting to learn about all of
It's,
that.
I mean, I've always laughed at the first season of Potomac in particular was always so over the top because
Mhm.
everyone there was like chiming, clamoring. I'm looking for the best word. They were going on and on about
Mhm.
how proper they were with a
Oh
man
yeah,
had, how educated they were,
sure. Like
and then
proclaiming
yeah,
like how, yeah,
and then proceed to be absolutely horrid,
yeah.
to show no tact or
Yes.
common decency or manners or social like understanding and proper decorum.
Yeah.
And I think they saw themselves in the next season and thought, okay, that's really hypocritical of us. Let's
Yeah.
tone it down. We'll be
Yep.
better people, whatever. I feel like that's going to happen here,
I
maybe,
agree.
because everyone's on about, like you say, their church, the religion they're part of, and they're not particularly godly in, I
Yeah.
guess, my book, which doesn't matter to anyone, but regardless.
Yeah, no, it's
So
it's it's very interesting, because it is obviously such like a central part of the show, and yet like manages to be ignored at the same time. So it's hilarious how much they talk about it but don't do it. And
yep.
I actually thought the kind of the most interesting stories were the woman who was excommunicated for having an
Yes.
affair. Um, because she was definitely like, it's so much a part of my life and everybody else's life, but yet I'm not in it. So she didn't seem to me to like be doing anything wrong, because of course she's not a Mormon. So, go do you. And then Jen, I think the woman who left the Mormon church to become a Muslim because she married a Muslim man. Um, so yeah, that was really interesting. So it's
Yeah.
kind of
It's
a total cross intersections of different beliefs
if you
there.
said something that was like, wait a minute, are you a Muslim? Or what is like? There's going to be so much contradictory, weird stuff in this season
Yes.
that
Yes.
is going to be both maddening and hilarious, I think.
Yes.
So, but yeah, I'm looking forward to it. The rest of it.
Yeah. Strong first episode with some very like already strong drama and characters. Hopefully they
Yep.
can build on it in a way that's interesting and not just like, increasing it too much where there's just like too much fighting. So
Yep. Yep. All right. Well, that's a bit of that's weekly housewives talk right there.
that's right.
Um, we also both watched a movie that we had mentioned last week. You brought up that it was
Yeah.
leaving Netflix. And when I started watching this movie, the movie Nine, the
Hmm.
animated film, um, I feel like maybe I've seen this film,
Okay.
but I'm not sure. I still like it's so much of it
Sure.
looked familiar. Maybe I saw parts of it on television. I don't know.
Sure. Or
but
just like reminded you of an animated style of something else,
maybe.
maybe. Yeah,
So,
it seemed
spoilers,
almost
spoilers, spoilers.
it seemed almost familiar to me too, but I like knew I hadn't seen it, but there was just like an
Okay.
element to it that felt, yeah, almost like I knew it or I had it or I'd seen it before. It was
Hmm.
almost like deja vu or something. It's very interesting.
Huh.
But yeah, spoilers.
It's a good voice cast.
Yeah.
Um, it's, I think, well animated. It's
Mhm.
got a cool, we're going to be moving to cyberpunk themed things soon. We got our steampunk in now.
Yes.
Um, so I like that. I like that aesthetic. What'd you think of the film?
Um, I thought it was like a cute little film. Um, it's pretty short, so easy to watch and digest, but it didn't quite all make sense to me. Like I felt like there was a very strong like beginning, middle, third act, and then like by the end I was a little like, wait, so what was the point of this? Or what exactly are we wrapping up here? So yeah,
Mhm.
I was left a little bit adrift, I think. Not entirely disappointed, just sort of like, oh, okay. Now we're at
Yeah.
the end.
It felt a little unfair to me because I sort of had that feeling too, where, um, like, I don't know, left me wanting or didn't have impact or whatever.
Yeah.
It felt like an episode of something,
Yeah.
you
Mhm.
know, a long episode of an animated series.
Right, right.
That maybe would be maybe it was a two-parter or a three-parter or something like that,
Yeah,
it's part of a larger whole.
that makes
So
sense to me.
yeah, it's because it kept moving,
Yeah,
like
mhm.
one beat to the next, but I see some of your comments like Nine seems to have a lot of opinions for someone that just woke up. I agree too. It's
Mhm.
like jumping in here, like I don't know any of you, but I'm gonna tell you
Yeah.
what's what, and uh,
We
yeah, I
gotta
thought
go
that
do
as
all
well.
this stuff and, you know,
Yeah,
like, these other characters would do it for you, and it's like, you met them, like, for 2 seconds. How do you know stuff?
yeah,
So,
yeah.
yeah.
Um, but what other thoughts? I see. Yeah, you're posed the question: any society rebuilding will always find a way to set up an order and rules. Can we ever exist without it? Yeah, because when Nine wakes up, he runs into the other puppet creatures of
Right.
that are like him, also named numbers, and yeah, there's sort of a structure, like an elder that's there in place, sort of
Mhm,
the muscle or bodyguard, and
mhm.
um, yeah,
Yeah.
it's
It was very interesting that, like, even these, I mean, we sort of learn at the end that these little puppet guys, are pieces of the human soul that have been fragmented, so that's sort of what animates them, and so they are, in essence, like, pieces of human, but it was just interesting to see, like, even they, when they reset up, after waking up wherever or whenever they did, they set up a very, like, human-like primitive society, where one is like the leader and he's got all these like symbols of power, his little staff and his cape and
yeah,
his like
hat,
dunce hat looking thing, like. So,
yep,
and yeah, like you said, like they've got the bodyguard, they've got the muscle, they've got this like inventor, they've got the, explorer, scavenger, um the six, who seems like he's gone a little bit crazy, but maybe at one time would have been like, a scribe or a recorder or a researcher kind of thing. So very interesting.
yep, and I
Oh,
think
that
you
was Crispin
always,
Glover. Cute. I didn't know that.
yeah, the leader, yeah, yep,
I recognize some of the voices. Obviously, Elijah Wood playing Nine. I
yep,
mean, how could you not? But like John C. Riley playing Five. I think Jennifer
okay,
Connelly was Seven, the like huntress.
okay, okay, yep.
So yeah, could recognize some of them.
Well, I like your society question. And I
Yeah.
guess, my answer would be Can we ever exist without it? Not for long.
Mm-hmm.
I think you go in the order of survival to fighting, violence to order, and
Mm-hmm.
that's the path you go in. So you have nothing else you can focus on but needing to survive, there can be a large level of cooperation there, and
Right.
whatever needs to happen to survive, the understanding that like the strength in numbers, all that kind of thing. But then once the survival kind of levels out, like we've have things under control a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
that's when other things can enter.
Right.
So that's when people's differences show, and that's
Right.
when you get, you know, who's the alpha. You can start getting these power struggles.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that violence settles itself out, and therein lies the hierarchy that exists,
Yeah.
and and that exists until you run into another group that has gone through the same process, you know,
Right.
and you have another clash.
It's very
And
Walking Dead of you, John.
is it?
Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
between. Well, part of my issue with The Walking Dead often was there were always, I guess I go back and forth between if you're in an apocalyptic space,
Mm-hmm.
um, coming from a non-religious uh, perspective,
Mm-hmm.
like, are you beholding to rebuilding?
Yeah.
Like, I feel like you naturally, there is there's something that asks you or demands you to rebuild. You have to trust some people, you have to form that society,
Right.
you work on repopulating. But
Recapture
um
some of what you had.
yeah, even though a lot of it's not going to be for you then,
Mm-hmm. Yep.
it's planting a tree. You
Yep.
plant a tree and it's in its full glory, 2 generations on.
Mm-hmm.
um so I had an issue with that struggle sometimes in the show where we're running around, we're surviving, we're not going to trust anyone else or bring anyone else in ever. It's like,
Right.
well, you're not going to, you know, nothing's going to happen then. You're not going
Right.
to progress past that stage of survival. And
Right.
so
Right.
when you saw the different towns that had kind of formed some sort of system,
Mm-hmm.
you could at least appreciate that they had done so,
Right.
and that's a risk that needed to be taken at some point.
Right. Although, I mean, you could argue a little bit, not to go too deep into Walking Dead since we're talking about nine, but you could argue that, like the prison season, I think that was like 3 or 4, was their like attempt to like put down some roots and like start up a society, and then they clashed, of course, with the governor and all
Yep.
that fell to pieces. So
Don't call the
yeah.
governor.
um But
Yeah.
yeah, just it was like interesting in this movie then these little puppets set up their own society. Before I kind of knew that they were I don't really know how to like infused or
Yeah.
imbued somehow with the human soul.
Hmm.
I just thought it was like really funny, like, oh, even little puppets can't help but make their own societies.
Yep.
Speaks to our need for order and rules, I think, and some level.
I have to say your thought process here behind this film is far better than mine, because I'm just like, pretty bold of you, Frodo. I think you could slip through those bars. And then
Uh-huh.
you ask, did man and machine just build mini versions of themselves to have a mini version of their larger fight? Yes, they did. Yes, they did. That's a good point.
Yeah, it was just so funny to me to like have this like epic scale of like, war between man and machine, like very Matrix like, and then they kill each other off, but they just can't let it go so much that they like build these like tiny versions of themselves to keep
Yep.
going and going. And it's like, my God, like when is that enough?
Yep.
So yeah, it was just a really interesting thing to me.
Yep.
Also, those little
um,
like mini machines were terrifying.
yeah. I mean,
Like that
I
little
thought a few
cobra baby
times.
thing? Woof.
Yes.
Dang.
I think I noted that. So yeah, certainly would be some creepy imagery for kids.
Yeah.
I thought it was an interesting you wouldn't want to have your young kid watch this, I would
No,
say.
no.
You know,
It's an animated movie, but it's not for young kids. Not at all.
and that's the thing. In a lot of ways, it feels again like that episodic cartoon kind of
Mhm.
thing that would be right for that age. But
Yeah.
then, yeah, some of the artistry and the steampunk imagery that goes along with it, the monsters and such,
Mhm.
definitely would be a little more than what you would ask for that for
Yeah, for
kids.
sure. Yeah, I was thinking about not only like the monsters cuz that like cat monster is kind of scary, but then of course he ends up like just totally like clawing number 2, which I thought, was a hard image probably for kids to watch even though there's no like blood or anything.
Yeah.
But then you have like the demon cobra baby where it's like got a little doll face inside like a slinky cobra body that just runs around. And then you've got the machine, like the ultimate big brain machine that they end up waking
Yep.
up. And it just sort of like it's people. Do you know what I mean? Like in the new It
Mhm.
where like, you don't look into his eyes/mouth kind of thing because those are like those
Mhm.
golden orbs
Oh,
behind
yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's exactly what I thought of when this brain
Sure.
machine was just like shining its light at people and just, trapping them and sucking up their souls. I was like, "Oh my god, it's a machine It." It was creepy. It was
Yeah.
creepy.
Yeah, like you say, that was to me that was the best part of the film was the the imagery that
Mhm.
they
Yeah.
created for it. Yeah. Um, let's see if we have any more insightful thoughts. I certainly don't.
Judging my
Um,
thoughts.
yeah. Um, like yeah, your video game remark. You should take some time to explore the room before you rush out.
Yeah,
Remind that to my D&D players as well.
that's right.
Better poke around before you just run off. Yep.
Well, and it was funny, I even had that thought at the beginning of the movie when Nine wakes up and just sort of, like, finds that little button, zips it up in himself, and just, like, runs out of the room to go see what's up. And I was like, "Really? Like, you're gonna show us the room and just, like,
Yeah,
see
think
where."
if he'd looked around there first,
Yeah,
like he goes back there and
yeah,
finds out stuff. Maybe you should have stayed there the
exactly.
first time.
Yeah, and it was I mean, I'd thought that right at the beginning of the movie, and then, of course, like, it ends up being central to how they're gonna
Yeah.
solve this, and I was like, "Ah, I knew it."
Yep.
Just take a beat, man.
There's that one little like prophetic part of the soul that's all like just speaking in his little code and
Mhm.
repeating lines and stuff. Go back to the beginning or the source or whatever,
Yes.
you know.
Yep.
So, yep, there was. Yep.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't have much else to say about it. I
I,
hope watched it if everybody watched it if they wanted to, because it's gone now.
yeah,
It's yeah.
unfortunately. It was I don't know, there were several kind of, questions that this movie did make me think about just because, um, they did bring back that sort of, like, very classic, like, good versus evil battle, and they set it, of course, within the context of, like a different form, I think, of Nazism,
Mhm.
when they had those, like, red flags and black symbols on white backgrounds and stuff like that. I was like, "Ooh, we're
Sure.
we're being reminded here." And, the dangers of, like, inventing technology that others can control for things that you don't mean them to. But it was very interesting, I thought, the concept so this, like, inventor who creates all of the 9 little puppets and also creates, like, um the big machine, I think they call it like the brain or something, um, creates this machine to do good, and then it's so easily corrupted. Like he um imbued it with like all of his learning and himself and his like desire for knowledge, but then the second like the chancellor takes over, it's like, oh, just kidding, like I'm not going to be good, I'm going to be like a bad machine and be used for evil. So,
Yep.
it's just interesting to kind of see how easy it is even for a machine to be bad than to be good.
Sure.
So
Yeah, I mean,
Kind of reminded me of like
And
Tony Stark and Ultron. Like
okay.
all of
Yeah, I
all
don't
of his
really
like
remember how that goes.
well, just
Um,
like all
for
of
that.
his intelligence and all, like he puts himself into it to, create this
Mhm.
peacekeeping program. And like the second Ultron has like a second of awareness, he's like, oh, just gonna like go kill everybody. That's the most peaceful thing I could do.
Yeah, but
So,
so ultimately, like, what is the? I mean, you have to define what the motivation is, like what
mm-hmm.
the, how the programming is, um, why it's logical for it to make that decision. And I
Right.
think that's a thing that a lot of content struggles with.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I particularly like the way that the video game Horizon Zero Dawn does it.
Mm-hmm.
I know some people played that game and thought it was very I don't know, it took a lot from other things, maybe not that original, but I really disagreed with that because of some of the details. And I don't know, spoilers for Horizon Zero Dawn, the video game, like not really big ones.
Sure.
The idea is that so in any post-apocalyptic thing, what what caused the apocalypse is the big deal. And in Horizon Zero Dawn, you're pretty aware that it's like these machines or whatever, you
Mm-hmm.
see there's machines you take on and stuff. And what was interesting about how things happened there was they built in, and I'll unplug your ears for a second. If you haven't seen I think you've seen the end of it though, but the machines are designed to, when out of fuel, they can convert biomass
Mm.
to fuel. And so they'd run out of fuel, and it sort of just went out of control the way that like there was no stopping when they needed to consume to, because they were like fighting a war. And so it
Sure.
would start like eating up the trees and the earth around it and everything for more fuel, and there was no stop to that. So they're
Sure.
like, these things are going to consume the planet in however long of time, because we can't like their failsafe broke or whatever. We can't turn off, and they need more energy. They're going to keep running.
Sure.
And so I thought that was kind of a unique thing. It's not a malicious thing,
Mm-hmm.
it's not a like we don't like our creators,
Yeah.
they're mean to us kind of thing. It was something more accidental.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. Here, I wasn't quite sure exactly what happened. I mean, I know that sort of the moment that this machine came alive and like the inventor had done it and transferred like his intelligence and not, I don't think it's consciousness, but um, his intellect over to the machine. Like the machine watched these people kind of take away his inventor and take it away to be used for whatever purpose. And it kind of reminded me of the opening of Van Helsing, where Frankenstein, creates his monster, and the first thing the monster sees is Frankenstein get killed, and he's like trying to like protect his dad and be like, oh, his creator, and be like, why? Why would you do this? And then,
Mhm.
you know, of course, like in that, it shapes him very differently, and then somehow for this machine being in these hands shapes it very differently.
Yeah, so why does the machine care about these puppets yet? Why does the
Yeah,
machine want the pieces of that soul yet? What does that do for it?
right.
And
Yeah,
the prevailing theory on AI now or whatever, or I'll talked about a lot, is how we're going to get to the point where we're just ants to
hmm,
them.
yeah,
Well, the discussion there is, well, usually people, unless don't go out of their way to kill ants unless they're become a direct nuisance.
hmm,
They're invading their home,
hmm,
whatever. Otherwise, they're just inconsequential.
right,
Would these puppets not be inconsequential
right.
to why would it, you know?
Yeah, it seemed that hadn't really been quite connected altogether. As like you said, as to why this machine cared so much about these little puppets when basically everything else was just wasted. Um, and then I also thought it was strange that, this machine was absorbing their souls, their like little pieces of soul that their inventor gave them and hadn't changed at all,
Right.
been changed by absorbing the human soul.
Because that would
Because
show a motive there.
right, right. So, because the inventor even said, like, I forgot to imbue this thing with a human soul, so that was my mistake. And then I was like, but then he got like little pieces, so didn't that
Mhm.
affect his programming somehow? Or, did he want that then? Like, and want more of that? Just wasn't quite clear. So,
Or wouldn't it be better if it started to gain some level of humanity
yeah.
and regretted that it took the pieces of destroyed these lives and now doesn't want it,
Mm,
like is conflicted between consuming the rest of them to become whole or not
right.
because it's wrong to destroy this other life.
See, I feel
Because
like
to
you
me
and
that
I just right now wrote like a cooler ending to this. Like,
it, well, it's just because the story plays like a children's story in that way that it
mhm,
doesn't need that complexity. It's a black and white. Well, here's the big bad scary robot,
right,
and then here's the good little puppet guys, and
right.
so they're gonna fight, and then we're gonna destroy the big bad robot. And but then the imagery of the film is such that it is asking more
Mhm.
of an audience's maturity. So.
Yeah. Yeah, I just feel like this movie was really interesting. It just didn't quite know where it fit. It didn't know what it wanted to be. Like, it didn't feel quite like a short movie. Could have been like a 3-episode mini series or mini something.
Mhm.
And then wasn't quite a kids movie, but didn't also feel complex enough to be an adult movie. It just,
Mhm.
yeah, kind of was all over the place.
Because I thought when I was thinking about it before we had this talk, I thought the biggest issue was probably that there wasn't enough character development where I like
Yeah.
actually cared about these characters. I didn't really go through all that much with any
Yeah.
of them, because it was sort of one like, set piece to another, kind of one action element to another.
Yeah,
And
there were certainly moments I think where you were like, "Oh,"
yeah,
but there was no like real development of attachment.
yeah. Mhm.
Mhm. Yeah,
All
interesting movie to
right.
watch though. It was kind of fun. It was kind of fun to
Yeah.
try out something different.
Yeah. Well, and I don't know of a lot of steampunk
Mhm.
films and things that I like. The
Mhm.
one that comes to mind would be Cabanetti and the Iron Fortress.
Okay.
It's an anime, and it's been all like confusing now with different people. It seems like different places, companies are getting the rights to it, and it's kind of getting
Mhm.
handed around or whatever. It was on Amazon Prime,
Okay.
and then they were going to make like a sequel season, and then it got shifted to making season one into like OVAs or a short movie or something. I don't know. Anyways, the one season of it is quite good.
Okay.
It's very gorgeous, and that's kind of a steampunk thing.
Okay.
So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, there's so much more like sci-fi rather than steampunky kind of things. So this was
Mhm.
kind of fun to dip our toes into.
Yeah. Um, Speaking of sci-fi things, like I say,
Yes.
Cyberpunk 2077 is coming up, and hopefully getting into some cyberpunk themed things here in the next couple weeks.
Mhm.
Um, Lots of cool movies to watch for that,
Mhm.
and so please look forward to it.
Yeah, stay
Uh,
tuned.
let's see what else. I think last week I forgot to like do regular closing.
All right. Well,
I'm not sure.
redemption, John.
I
Redemption.
know,
Take it away.
right? You know.
Here's your
um,
moment.
yep. Thank you to Killing the Flower for our theme song. You can take a look at their other work on YouTube and Instagram and Spotify. Also, you should follow us on the social media things. So,
Yes.
YouTube, all these videos go there. Um, Twitter, Facebook, Check out our website. Follow us here on Twitch.
Mm-hmm.
And then we'll be on your favorite podcast directory as well. So
Yes.
find us there as well. You should leave comments, like things, share things, all that sort of thing. If we had a lot more viewers, I know we would get some arguments at some point, and we have not gotten any yet. So, I mean, I should be careful what I wish for, but for the time being, you can, completely disagree if you
That's
want.
right. That's right.
Yeah.
Add us. Like, let us know what opinions you have or what we think that's just totally crazy.
Yep. That's right. All right. Well, thanks again for joining me, Andrea, and you have a good night.
Sounds good. Cheers, everybody.